Hello, welcome to the Dayton Unit NAACP Monthly Community Meeting. Titled Black Economy, a focus on the economics, profession, and empowerment. This evening, we're going to hear from some distinguished guests, and those guests are going to be introduced by our chairman of our Economic Development Committee and his one of his members, Chairman Roland Wimmer. Chairman Wimmer.
Good evening, everyone. And thank you for attending and also participating live. Tonight, we have a distinguished panel of individuals who are going to be speaking from their particular programs at their universities and colleges. We have Sinclair College, Community College, University of Dayton, Rice State University, and Central State University, who are going to be presenting this evening information about economic programs, finance programs, state universities, and Central State University. We are presenting this tonight, not necessarily for the adults, but for the youth, but the adults in the ways for the parents, and for the parents to begin to talk with their youth or your kids about trying to then look at what university that they want to select or what career paths that they want to adhere to, based upon their interests and so forth. So we, one of our strategic emphasis right now, our initiatives, is to begin to talk to our youth to prepare for generational wealth, be able to be wealth creators. And we think that this is one of the strategic ways of doing that by bringing in our educational institutions to begin to talk about those kind of things and prepare our youth for building wealth in the future. That is kind of what the Black economy is talking about here, as you see up here. It's interesting that when I initially looked at what Black economy was, the different kind of things that were shown to me from the internet were all negative. So Black economy in some regards is talking about the undermarket or negative markets that people are trying to evade paying taxes for, doing things underneath the radar on the Federal Reserve and so forth, are doing things crooked and so forth. But that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. What we are here to talk about is the focus on the economic profession and the benefits from being involved in one of those particular areas. We hope to move along kind of quickly. We have two other speakers. One is from our National Economic Development Committee, Ms. Keisha DeAndre from National, and she is the chair and director of the Economic Development, although she carries a different title that deals with diversity, inclusion, and so forth. So right now, I want to present some information to you. Sometimes when we talk about economics, we're talking about self-sufficiency and this generational approach to changing the paradigm. What that means is we're introducing something different tonight than you would normally see, talk, and hear about from economics. We're not talking about inflation or the interest rate or housing or any of those kind of things tonight.
Sure.
I'm sorry. What we're here to talk about tonight is how to prepare for professions and what benefits you get from that. We are able to talk about that. So if you wanted to hear about those particular market concerns, again, inflation, geopolitical instability, conflicts, and interest rates, I will ask that you give me a call and or email me, and I'll provide that information to you. So what is economics? There's different definitions for that. The bottom line, economics is the study of the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. The economist has three questions that they want to answer. What goods and services should be produced to meet consumer needs, in what quantity, when they should be produced, and so forth. How should goods and services be produced? Who should produce them, and what resources, including technology, should be combined to produce them, or how to produce? Who should receive the goods and services? How should they be allocated among consumers? And what I would add is not what to produce, it's what we need to produce, what we need and how we need to produce it, and for whom we need to produce it too. That's more direct, and that's more important what we need to do to begin to be strategic about it and mindful about how we are to present economics to our youth and our friends and family. Because a business uses resources to produce things, these things are often referred to as factors of production. Many of the factors of production or resources are provided to business by households. That's you and that's me. For example, households provide businesses with labor as workers, land and buildings, landlords, and capital as investors. In turn, businesses pay businesses pay households for these resources by providing them with the income such as wages, rent, and interest. The resources obtained from households are then used by businesses to produce goods and services which are sold to the same household that provided businesses with revenues. The revenue obtained by businesses is then used to buy additional resources and cycle continues. And that is called the circular flow of inputs and outputs. And our economic individuals here today may talk a little bit more about that in a minute. The belief that a good job is the surest path to economic security has always been at the heart of our nation's political and social framework. Young people will soon drive our economy. Employment disparities start very early. The response to racial injustice in the US has increased awareness of the economic implications of systemic racism. Society bears the burden when all youth are not prepared for success in the workforce. These determinants arise in the form of increased safety net expenses, represented repressed long-term economic growth, difficulty in maintaining US global competitiveness, and increased criminal activity. Today's leaders, corporations, grassroots organizations, and educational institutions have begun designing specific initiatives focused on increasing Black Americans' access to opportunity and advanced job prospects, along with rising awareness of skill gaps, but more action is needed. Leveraging and upscaling high school, college, and early career professionals can better prepare the US economy for the future while closing income gaps and increasing lifetime incomes for the Black and brown and underserved and disadvantaged communities. In regards to the economic implications of systemic and structural racism, for example, income and wealth disparities, the wealth gap, economic inequality, joblessness, impediments in bank lending, housing discrimination, separation and unequal education, relevant social networks, and discriminatory lending practices has all contributed to compounding income and wealth disparities that continue today. And for underrepresented, underserved Black and brown youth who are already at a high risk of negative life outcomes, youth employment is still yet another driver of disparities in opportunity, resulting in greater risk for being jobless, experiencing lower economic earnings, and limited prospects for social economic mobility. Grassroots organizations can serve as a model for collaborative social solution-based initiatives amongst local citizens, youth groups, corporations, and finance lenders, and an array of other institutions. They are essential to creating economic solutions and creating initiatives to their intended audience. They understand the intricate needs of communities they serve and are best suited to advocate for a solution. In short, the areas of economic health is intertwined with Black Americans' ability to successfully contribute to and advance our country's and equally as well as our county's economic position. Private, public, and educational institutions and social consortiums alike can become more actionable in their communal efforts and initiatives to provide the access and opportunities that equip and empower young Americans for success and bolster economic growth. At this point, I would have asked for our National Economic Development Chair, but as I understand it, as far as I know, she's going to be coming on about 7:45. Unless she's on and wants to let me know that she's available now. In regards to educational institutions, who you'll be hearing from now, our educational institutions are instrumental in the quest for economic mobility in the U.S. Availing ourselves to available educational opportunities are fundamental elements of the American promise. Over the course of American history, Black Americans have helped to build, strengthen, and lead our organization as a nation toward becoming a more perfect union. Although far too long, Black Americans have been denied even the most basic access to education. But in spite of being denied today, Black students and scholars are thriving in schools and breaking barriers in the face of those historic and present day inequalities. In spite of the progress, entrenched disparities continue to plague American education systems, holding far too many Black and brown students back from achieving their full potential. Even if a student's education and career aspirations are aligned, opportunities available and other resources and social setting constraints can negatively influence those aspirations. Notably, 41% of all Black Americans are first-generation college students. This points to the critical role educational institutions have in developing individuals. The expression you all often heard, "you own your own career," can be burdensome for many Black students who do not have a line of sight into the multifaceted pathways one can choose within the choice of study. This points to the challenges Black Americans must overcome in their early careers. To make better informed decisions about their career choices, educational institutions can address access and information gaps, reconcile experience gaps by creating an applied learning ecosystem of skill-related projects that complement students' aspirations. Invest in student service programs tailored to improve Black students' academic and graduation outcomes. Quickly mobilize and create targeted solutions to improve student outcomes and provide students with career roadmaps, career advertisement, and future job outlooks. This will allow those students to make better informed decisions about their career choices. Our area educational institutions are irrefutably strengthened by the success, scholarships, and tenacity of Black students of all ages. But our nation's higher education institution must go further to finally root out systematic barriers in our schools. Systematic racial disparities and educational inequalities have only widened as Black students are more likely to face limited success and access to advanced and college preparatory courses. These disparities result in long-standing college and post-secondary educational attainment gaps that affect life outcomes and access to opportunities. To advance educational equality or equity in our national schools, from early childhood to their chosen career, we must increase high school graduation and post-secondary attendance rates and foster economic opportunity, break down barriers that impede access to higher education institutions that serve Black students and historically Black colleges and universities, and encourage and develop partnerships with institutions of higher education and other public, private, philanthropic, and nonprofit stakeholders to improve access to educational equity and economic opportunities for Black Americans. So that, I said all that to say that that's the backdrop for our talented panel this evening. We'll share with you what are opportunities at their particular universities for our students to attend and or choose a career in finance, economics, or business administration. With that, I will start at this end and come down. If I don't trip over. In the background on the slide presentation, I want to maybe take a moment after you hear the presentations to share with you some images, some ideas that I want to entrust upon all of you, as these are what some of our kids are going through or not going through in terms of their aspirations and their desires. There's a statement that I've heard often is, if you can't envision it, you can't be it. So I want to impress upon you in a few minutes about some of those kind of things that I want to impress upon you and put in your mind about. There's not a lot of youth here today, but you are parents, you are uncles, you're grandparents, and so forth. Just take this to them and talk with them about aspirations and maybe attending one of the university or colleges here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. My name is Stephen Washington. I'm the Director of Community Engagement and Business Partnerships at Central State University. Also an adjunct professor in finance and economics. I also spent 8 years on the full-time faculty in finance and economics. And I bring you greetings from Ohio's only public HBCU and Ohio's only 1890 land-grant institution. So we have a robust programming around finance, economics, agribusiness, agri-economics through our land-grant status in the USDA. Ourselves in Ohio State are the only 2 land-grant universities in Ohio. And so we have a tremendous focus on Ohio's largest industry, which is agriculture, and the largest, most economically viable industry, agriculture. And I know everyone wants to say something, but I can tell you the Central State puts a great emphasis on wealth building and the wealth gap. We have a class that I teach called Economic Problems of the Black Community, that the only thing we talk about is the Black wealth gap and the income gap and the history behind wealth disparities specifically. And what's nice about the class, there are no prerequisites. Any student can take from freshman to senior, and it is always the most popular, the most full class on campus every semester. So there's a tremendous emphasis on wealth building, entrepreneurship support, career support in the College of Business, and just study on, you know, what that gap really is, right? So when you talk about the Black economy, as the gentleman said, you know, as of 2022, that's $1.2 trillion, which sounds like a lot, but GDP for 2022 is 25 trillion. So that's around 4.5%, even though we're 13.5% of the population. So, you know, these huge gaps exist, and we try to teach the kids, you know, specifically what those gaps are, and then strategies for them to build wealth, especially generational wealth. So, pleasure being here. And if you have any interest in Central State University, look us up online. You can find me online, Director of Community Outreach and Business Partnerships. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Barbara Irving, and I am a professor at Sinclair Community College, and I teach both in the economics department and also in the personal finance course there. And Sinclair's unique in the fact it is a 2-year school here, so you can get, it does have a few 4-year programs, but for the business program, it has 2-year degrees. What's wonderful about it is students can come to Sinclair, most of you are familiar with Sinclair, and get their general eds, taken care of, and also they can earn an associate's degree in business administration. And what that allows them is, one, they have a degree from an institution, but they can also transfer those credits to many of the other schools here. And it's extremely affordable. They can live at home, they can save on their finances. Because one thing while I teach the personal finance class, I'm always aware of the fact of students, I don't want students to take out too much debt when going to school. Education is such an important aspect of getting higher incomes. At the same time, you want to be somewhat cautious about how much debt you take out. Sinclair does a great job in student support. They have a lot of academic assistance for students. So for our economics program, we have a tutor on campus that is free to all students taking an econ class. Econ classes tend to be a little challenging for many students. There's 28 hours of free tutoring for all our students, which is incredibly helpful. We also have a lot of other programs on campus that can assist students. I also teach the personal finance class, and this goes along with econ. And it's very important for people to get education, you increase your income, but also learn the skills to increase their net worth so they have that generational wealth. And no matter where they go to school, I encourage all students to take a personal finance class because it's equally important to learn how to manage your money, to live within your budget, how to save for that rainy day. How to learn how to invest. A lot of times, if you haven't grown up in a family that has invested in the stock market, people are hesitant and uncomfortable doing it. But those people who have generational wealth are investing in the stock market. And so it really is advantageous for students who are going to school to learn about finance and personal finances. Okay. Sinclair is a really wonderful institution. My guess is many of you have been on campus. I encourage students to really attend, to take classes. They can do 2 years there, or take classes during the summer if they're going somewhere else, and get those gen eds out of the way so that they can have a little lighter load when they're attending school at another four-year institution. I'm always available. Again, my name is Barbara Irby. I'm happy to answer questions. But if you reach out to anyone in Sinclair, they really are going to be very helpful in answering any questions you have.
Good evening. My name is Henry Wilmore. I teach economics at the University of Dayton. I just started teaching this past year after a career in banking and consulting. So it gave me a new perspective, sort of trying to bring together the world I worked in for over 20 years with a lot of 18, 19-year-old students. But somewhat to my surprise, the gap actually between my experiences and what I'm trying to teach them and what they already know in their bones is not that big. For example, one of the messages I have for them is one word: data. We live in a world where the amount of data out there is just exploding. But students already know that. They understand that. Where I can kind of help them refine that understanding a little bit is to give them some of the tools you need to analyze data. Obviously, you have an explosion of data, but you don't have the same corresponding increase sometimes in our understanding of the data and analysis of the data. So in a lot of ways, that's our job, is to in a world out there that's changing a lot, and it's to equip the students with the tools to make sense of it and make them hopefully make a good living from making sense of the world out there. So that's the way I look at what I'm doing now that I'm a faculty member. And I try and give them a little bit of a sense of what it's like out there in the world where, actually I have to get a paycheck. I talk a little bit about what I did in banking and consulting. I worked on the trading floor for about 8 years, and my job basically, when the economic data come out at 8:30 in the morning, is to help the traders know whether they should buy or sell based on the data. So that's kind of really the message I have for students is you need this deep knowledge, deep understanding of how to look at the data because it kind of surrounds us. And a lot of the times it doesn't make any sense, but we have to find a way to have it make sense. And of course, this is true in many fields, not just the fields I've worked in. For example, economists work in the public sector. Every state, every city has a budget office. Budgets are mainly data that make sense of how different rules and laws affect tax revenues, for example. So there are those kinds of jobs available. So really, what we're trying to teach our students is to be data scientists. And this not just applies to economics, but many other fields, psychology, sociology, medicine. All of those fields have so much more data to work with now. And this new generation that we're training is basically the generation that's going to make sense out of this explosion of data. So that's kind of, in a broad sense, the way I view my job now is having experienced the world out there, seeing how it's changing in terms of the amount of data out there, how to equip the next generation to kind of understand this even more deeply than us old folks currently understand it. So I'm going to pass it on next to John Fulkerson, who's my department chairman.
Yes, so I'm also at the University of Dayton with Henry, and when I came in as department chair, one of the things I was most impressed with the university is so it's a private Catholic Marianist university, and it really is a focus on community. So the moving into it, it was like a very much caring approach to students and what they can bring to the classroom and what we bring to our students. I'm actually on the finance side of it. We're a joint department, economics and finance. And on the finance side, one of the things I try to get from my students is they often think long term, thinking about risk and thinking about trade-offs for that. But in the end, I often teach students are not going into finance or financial careers. And that often ends up being a discussion around being analytical. I want to echo what some of my colleagues said, is giving them skills to understand the world around them. And in an analytical way, you're going to think about things as a system that is connected, and that very much matches the stuff that Mr. Woodburn was discussing earlier. In finance, the multitude of careers out there, often students will stop and think we're just talking about investing, we're just talking about stocks and bonds. But there's careers in companies where you're doing data analytics, like Kendra was discussing, but just working for any company, but in the finance area of that company. Banking institutions hire thousands, tens of thousands of people for there. And then, of course, there is the investments, but underpinning all that, there's financial technology around data, insurance, and real estate are both allied fields to finance. And I think there's many opportunities for students to consider those areas. Where I think UD has, the University of Dayton has some interesting opportunities in finance. We have the largest student-run portfolio in the country, and it's truly student-run. The students actually manage the $65 million portfolio. We make all the decisions with some supervision, but they make all the decisions in that portfolio. We have a second portfolio stood up now for focusing on ESG investment, environmental, social, and governance focused investing. And I think this creates some more opportunities for our students to get experiential learning, so they experience actually doing it. And I hear them go into their interviews. It's like, well, I'm part of a $60 million portfolio, and the interview is like $60 million. They're really, it's a great opportunity for these students to move forward with these experiences. And as a result, they're defining excellent careers. Maybe it's in finance, maybe it's not in finance, but they're having excellent outcomes and really giving an opportunity to have a positive impact on the world.
Dean Fernandez, if you wanted to make any comments.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here today. I'm Dean Angela Fernandez from Sinclair Community College, and I got the request to come speak today during summer when all of our faculty are on vacation. So we were able to bring a faculty member, Barbara Irby, here to speak about personal finance and economic wealth. So I just wanted to add that Sinclair Community College just got awarded the Leah Meyer Austin Award for student success. So we have just recently been given the designation of the #1 community college in the entire nation for student success. And that's based on a lot of the measures that we have put in place to ensure that underrepresented or underserved communities and underserved students in our system, our community college system, do make it to the finish line. So there are a number of things that we have done within our institution to increase success rates for all of our students, and we've been recognized nationally for that. I also wanted to mention the UD and Sinclair Academy that we most recently started, I believe, within the last 5 years or so. Where students can come to Sinclair and be dual enrolled as Sinclair students as well as University of Dayton students and work on coursework at Sinclair, but also have access to resources at Sinclair and the University of Dayton. So they would be enrolled as a Sinclair student, but also a UD student. So they would be able to take courses at both institutions, have access to resources at both institutions. Even, I believe they're able to go to different events and things at the University of Dayton as well as Sinclair Community College. So that is an extra plus for any students that are considering the community college four-year university track. So thank you for having us.
I want to personally thank each one of the universities, each one of the representatives from the university who come this evening. As the dean says, this may not have been the best time to do this in terms of vacations and other conferences and so forth going on. But we want to let you know that through the year, we're going to be focusing on youth. One of the things that we're going to start doing very soon is to have a career fair. And that's not an employment fair. That is a career fair. That we're going to invite different disciplines, different careers, different areas that they can aspire to become involved in. As I said earlier, if you don't know, you don't know. But once you're being exposed to that, you can begin to develop some kind of career path for yourself. Mr. Beaucamp, or Dean Beaucamp from Wright State University, was not able to be with us tonight. He's having an appendix removed tonight, so he called earlier and said, like, I don't think he can make it here. So we'll have other opportunities. Also, who was not able to be here this evening or on the web tonight was with Miss Samantha Tweedy. She's the CEO of Black Economic Alliance, and she was invited also to present to us about that organization. It's a nonpartisan alliance of Black business leaders and aligned advocates committed to economic progress and prosperity in the Black community through public policy, advocacy, and engagement with government and business leaders with a specific focus on work, wages, and wealth. So there's, if anybody's interested in that, we're going to get an opportunity for her to be present and for us to maybe partner with that particular organization as we begin to continue to talk about economic policies and opportunities for this organization to be involved in something like that so that we can enhance our economic area. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to my vice chair, Mr. Bill Pollard, and he's going to share some affirmations.
Thank you. Okay, Roland gave me this little cheat sheet here, and I'll talk to you about that, but I just want to talk to you from a different perspective as a retired Air Force officer and owner of a company, because my perspective is about economic development, guys. These folks preparing, and then we put them to work. Okay, so you talk about economic power is always empowerment has always been a key to the growth and development of individuals and communities. True. And what Roland just said about what you don't know, and if you don't know, you can't do anything about it. So I've always believed that you try to share the information, you try to enlighten people and empower people so they can do for themselves. So as the Chinese said, if you give a man a fish, you can feed him for a day. But if you teach them how to fish, they can eat for a lifetime. True, very important. Okay, the aims of economic empowerment is to empower disadvantaged Black citizens through skills development, enterprise, I say Black minorities and women, because they all have the same problem of how the system works, or more appropriately, how it doesn't work, because it's not fair. So I'm not gonna read you more of these bullets. I'm just gonna tell you, as a businessman, I'll tell you my history and why I think it's important that we have these kinds of things. So my wife gives me the title from the projects to CEO. So I spent 12 years of my life in the projects in Michigan. Decided I didn't want to work in factories like my dad, so I joined the Air Force. And during my time in the Air Force, I had 3 key people that mentored me, that changed my life. The first one was a Black man. He was a technical sergeant in the United States Air Force in 1965, which was virtually unheard of, because the majority of Blacks who did 20 years in the Air Force at that time, 65, retired with 3 stripes. He had 5. So he taught me how to read Air Force regulations, how to interpret them, and how to use them to my advantage. So that set me on my way. And then I was stationed in Texas, working with classified. I had a general in Postal Service wrote me a letter and says, "You need to go to school and become a commissioned officer." He says, "Because we've been watching you. We need more minority officers in the United States Air Force." That was in 1972. I went to school part-time. 5 years later, I had my degree and got commissioned. While I was in the Air Force, now I was a commander. So I had like 1,000 troops in one squad and 500 troops in another, 250 in another squad. And I had to babysit them. I was everything for me. Lived in the dorm, so I took care of them. In Tampa, I had 1,000 of them. 600 were first termers. That means the first time in the Air Force, the average age of the squadron was 1977 in Tampa. Needless to say, they stayed in a lot of trouble. So I learned a lot about people skills in that. But while I was stationed in Berlin, I had a guy that told me while we were taking courses together, "You need to get into contracting." And so, okay, never thought about that. So he greased the skids. Not only did he suggest that, he got me into contracting. And so I was stationed in Los Angeles, where I worked with space shuttle program, Titan programs, Titan missile programs. And then I went to DC, helped create the Defense Acquisition University that's here in Dayton. And then here, I was in the F-22 multi-billion-dollar program that I was responsible for the contracts of that program. When I retired, I had some guys come to me and says, "Why don't you come work with us?" So I got hired as an independent consultant. 2 years later, we created our own company. It was 5 of us. That was in 1997. Today, I'm the CEO of that company. We have 90+ people working all around the country, not just here. We have contracts with the Department of Veteran Affairs. Plus, we have about 500 doctors that work for us part-time doing medical disability exams. We do have a few interns that work for us. We have them doing indexing of the records. We have worked with Franklin County. We work for the Department of Health and Human Services in North Carolina. We have Air Force contract. So my message is that if you get opportunities and people mentor you, you need to listen to them. I wish the young people would stay here, because I listened to some folks who helped me. Had I not listened to them, I might still be in the projects. And the one person that I listened to the most was my boss, the wife, because I wanted to get out. And she says, "We're not going back," and I wanted to quit school because I had 3 sons going to school full-time, working 2 jobs. And she says, "You're not quitting. I burned my books, you maybe go buy some more." So perseverance, and there's opportunities out there, but we have to share those information, and getting wealth to our children is extremely important. I don't know if any of you guys have heard the College 529 Advantage program. Look it up. If you got young kids, you got grandkids, you need to get involved with College 520. And it's a program where you could save money for your kids to go to college. You can put as much or as little as you want. Nobody else can touch the money except you. They can never touch it. And they can go to any college in these United States from those funds. And we've had 6 grandkids we put through college. They owe nothing. They owe nothing. And so, and that's our mission, that's our role as parents, as grandparents, that's what we're supposed to do. Is make their lives better so that they can do better than us and then leave them something that they can get that jump start from. And so we've done that, but it's because of mentors and because I went to school, got that education, learned about finances, all of that stuff is very important. But learning about business and learning what business opportunities are is extremely important because once you get economic power, then you can get political power. And when you get political power, you can change the dynamics of the world that's around you. And you have to get outside of your world. You know, if you stay within your own little community, you don't even know what the world is about until you get outside and see what's out there. And so that's my message to you guys. Give that message to your kids, to your grandchildren. And I'm available anytime to talk to any kid, anytime. And I can tell them some of my secrets of becoming successful. I don't mind sharing. That's what I'm here for.
Okay. I'm trying to juggle getting one national economic development director online or either on Zoom right now. And I'm not hearing from her, so I'm not sure if she's going to be able to get on or not. But I wanted to share at least one of these affirmations with you to help me get into the next thing before. Okay, you can be sure. Which anyone should be.
All right, Black economic power is the empowerment of Black youth and assume a greater role in the economy. It's a critical component of the Black community. I would say any community. You need, you know, that economic power. Don't move forward without economic power.
With that, one of the comments that I have researched on, and I want to share this with you, is that this is where diversity, equity, and inclusion rubber hits the road. This is where the talk becomes the walk. We must resolve to face the problems directly and deliberately. So hopefully that's what we will be doing in this unit of NAACP through the Economic Development Committee. At this time, I would like to entertain questions with the allowable time, and I'll see if Ms. DeAndre is on the line or available by phone. So anybody who wants to have any questions, please come forward so they can get on the mic. I don't see any questions. Well, that may be pretty good, huh? Any other questions you have with the speakers this evening? Okay, at this point, what I want to do is just, I'll begin to show some slides to you and I'll share with you some ideas about it. See if she'd like to.
Just one question, and each one of you can answer this from a company standpoint, from a university standpoint. What is, so some of the term Mr. Pollard said about diversity and inclusion, diversity, equity and inclusion. So what does that look like in your respective organizations? We started in the leadership, with the leadership.
Well, Central State is very diverse. We're an HBCU, which means historically Black College and University, but as of 2022, we were only 51% African American across the board. And so between our on-campus student body and our online campus, it's very diverse. Our faculty, and most faculties are very diverse. We have faculty from around the world. And so, our diversity is sort of baked into our history. right? So we've always had a diverse campus. And it's something that's, you know, very important. Where our role, especially as a land grant institution, is to serve the entire state of Ohio. We have programming down in Appalachia. So diversity is baked in. It is one of our core tenets, one of our core principles. And so we think it's very important for economic reasons as well, to make sure you have a diverse campus.
So Sinclair Community College is a community college, so we're open access. We open our doors to anyone who wants to come and get a better education. One of our three strategic goals for the college are aligning with our community, growth, growing our programs and access to our programs, and equity. So equity is actually one of our three strategic goals, and we actually build strategic plans within our departments, divisions, and our college using those three strategic goals. So we are all held accountable to those three strategic goals every year by our college president. I already mentioned the Leah Meyer Austin Award that we just recently received for student success. A lot of that, the measures that we had to be judged on for receiving that award had to do with our programming around our Black Male Initiative. So we have programming that's specific to Black male success, our increasing the rate of access to associate degrees and associate degree completers for the Black community, as well as our Returning Citizens Initiative. So we are the #1 college provider in all of the institutions in the state of Ohio. We also have things that Barb talked about, like embedded tutors and things like that, to assist all of our students in meeting success goals. So I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything else. I don't want to leave anything out. I'll pass it to you and all.
So just so I'm clear, in terms, I'm talking about more specifically the president and his cabinet. That's what I'm talking about. More specific.
Oh, okay. So the leadership in the cabinet, again, very diverse. We have every race and gender in the cabinet. So, you know, the university believes in that. Our prior president was a woman. So in fact, our female leadership, most of our cabinet is female at this point, African-American female, in fact. So very, very diverse cabinet, very diverse on the academic side in terms of the deans and the chairs as well, both ethnically and internationally. One thing I'll say about Central State, from a diversity standpoint, among the four-year state universities, we're the only one where half of our student body is actually from out of state. So we're truly a Midwest regional HBCU, heavy, you know, Detroit, Chicago, Milwaukee, Indianapolis. So our students sort of get a rich mix of interaction that way as well.
As far as the president and the cabinet, we've got, one of the unique things about leadership at Sinclair is that we have a lot of females in leadership. I don't think we see across community colleges across the nation, there's not a lot of female leaders. That's actually one of my areas of research focus for my dissertation is female leadership in community colleges, because we do have a strong leadership base of females at Sinclair Community College. We also have specific recruiting around getting and developing more leaders of color and more female leaders in our community college. Our entire board, though, is very dedicated to the equity mission. We do have our diversity officer and an entire department that is focused on that. And they have done a lot of good work around anti-racism in the community. So there's been specific initiatives that have been earmarked for successful completion in those areas.
All right. So in Monterey, we have myself, the CEO, my president and partner, he's Caucasian. Vice president's Caucasian, but we have a Native American vice president also. And then within the company, we have a good, strong bench of women and minorities of Asian, Black, so forth, that are in leadership roles. One of our largest sections is the medical records section. So we got about 30, maybe 40 people that work with medical records of the veterans. And I think all the leadership are women and a Black guy. And then it's like 4 different leaderships, and the main leader, and then her helpers. And so we work at that, not only because I believe that, because I have to look at myself in the mirror, but also as a federal contractor, we're required by law to report annually. We have a affirmative action plan that we had to write. We have to follow and we have to report on what our numbers are in every category. So we're held accountable even if we didn't want to. So we're trying to do even better. Sometimes the problem is the way contracts are written, they're very specific in their requirements and trying to find people. That's why it's important for people to get knowledge about what they can qualify for so that you can get diversity. Because if people don't know that you have these kinds of jobs, then you tend to go to the same pool all the time. I'd much love to expand that pool. We have some of our folks get some good paying jobs. We give a 401k immediate matching. 30 days after you company, you can match it 4%. We've been doing that since we were 5 people. Because I believe in, sharing with the folks who make you successful. I'm not the company, it's the people who do the work, where the rubber meets the road, where they deal with the customers. That's where you get your reputation. They can get anybody to lead a company, but you need people, good people. My philosophy is find good people, treat good people good, and good people will do good things for your company.
So University of Dayton is, making steps in this direction as a Catholic institution, and the diversity is part of the Catholic social teaching, Catholic intellectual tradition. I would say we're developing, we can't match the same leadership profile that you just discussed for that, but we do have lots of backgrounds in our leadership positions. We just appointed our first female provost at the university. We're really excited to have her there. The majority of the academic deans are now female at this point. So I think we're developing in that direction. I think there's an understanding that there's more we can do around our recruiting practices. And that's the area that I'm seeing the biggest improvement is that they're really taking serious the recruiting practices need to have a diverse pool, so that we really are taking a look at everybody to get the best person for that position. So I think that's our approach.
I don't know how much time you have, so I'll just share just a little bit about my story. I actually was recruited into Sinclair as a student. So I was a student at Sinclair and I graduated from one of the programs at Sinclair. I went and worked in the field that I was studying in for a little while, a couple of years, and then I got a call from the chairperson of that program and said, "Hey, you want to come teach for us?" So I came back as a student, as a teacher. And it's called the Grow Our Own program. So we look for any student that has potential to come back and be an instructor at Sinclair. And it's specifically the Grow Our Own program specifically. It was developed to increase our diversity in our faculty, because if you can't see it, you can't be it. And so they brought me in and had me teach. And as I was teaching there at Sinclair, I got involved in things and got moved up into a leadership position. But our provost actually came through the same exact program. And so I think that's one of the unique things about Sinclair is that if you look at our campus, a lot of our faculty and staff on campus are former students. And we specifically recruit our students of color who have a lot of potential to come and teach in our programs.
With that, I want to ask everybody to give a applause for each one of these. Thank you. That concludes our presentation this evening, but I wanted to show you this. This is what we're really trying to go right here with our efforts, with our initiatives, with our discussions. And everything this evening, getting our youth. Getting our youth to be able to be in positions in the next few years. They will have children, and we hope that they'll continue that generational understanding relationship so that we can build wealth that we really need to have and close that wealth gap. So with that, I want to thank everybody. I know that our director, I confused the time. I thought she was going to be available at 7:45. She said just now that she had to leave at 7:45. So she's willing to come back, and we'll make sure that she comes back and gives an address to each one of you. I want to thank each one of you for participating tonight and coming. Please take this home to your children. I hope it's been beneficial. Contact the universities for for additional information on how they can become involved in one of their universities to go to school and get that educational degree that's so much needed so that we can decrease that educational gap, that wealth gap, and the generational gap. Thank you very much for everybody coming.
And one more time, if we can give it up